imagine growing up as kids, how we would always play in our parents' shoes. You know, they're oversized. You look very funny, like a clown, and people laugh. But in reality, in my case, it wasn't funny, because I literally started wearing my dad's shoes when I was 9. You know, obviously for my age, I couldn't find shoes that were my size or the right kind of color or design. So I had to end up with ugly shoes for my age. That was a bit embarrassing for me growing up as a kid. But the worst part of it was the fact that I would see all the other kids wearing the amazing shoes, the right colors. I would see the ones that I really love, and they didn't have my size. Sadly, I lost both of my parents when I was 11, and I got brought up by community, literally. My granddad, my uncles, my aunties, you know, friends of family, everybody came together to bring me up. And so this young boy was brought up a little bit confused, because I had 2 uncles who are medical doctors, another uncle a computer scientist, another uncle an artist. And so you can imagine, for this 11-year-old growing up through my teens, I was actually very confused. I had no idea what I wanted to study, but somehow, some way, to avoid the medicine trap, I ended up studying microbiology. So in 4 years, I was out. But as I came out of school, my feet were still growing, until eventually I ended up being a shoe size 14, a US 14, which is also a European size 48. So you can imagine how uncomfortable that must have been. A lot of the shoes that I wore were ugly. They looked like boots, literally, you know. And so in 2015, I decided to solve that problem. I got onto the internet and I said, how do I make my own shoes? How do I create sneakers? So I started searching. I Googled up and I came across a school in Netherlands called SLEM, a school for innovative footwear design and manufacturing. And so I decided to go there to check out the school and see what opportunity that availed me. And when I got there, I realized very quickly that it was a very, very amazing school. Saw things around 3D printing, putting chips in shoes, and all of that stuff. And so I just decided there and then I needed to go for this program. But then I decided to backtrack a little bit. How did I get to this point of going to make my own shoes? I studied microbiology. I ended up working in the oil and gas sector briefly as a youth corper in Nigeria. And then afterwards, I changed careers. I moved into IT. Remember I told you about the uncle who was a computer scientist. So I literally grew up in the house seeing these large stacks of paper, you know, having all the codes printed out, you know, and that was what I literally saw growing up. So I decided to study the Microsoft exams and all of those things. And so I had this microbiology in my pocket, IT was there, and then now I was moving away to focus on designing sneakers. And obviously this inspiration must have come from the uncle who was the artist. So I decided to do this course, and whilst I was there, I started to realize very quickly that the whole idea of making my own shoes was also going to be quite expensive. You know, the process of creating a sneaker is not just about, you know, putting pieces of material together. You know, some of those processes require having, you know, certain ovens where you can put in the upper and the outsole at certain temperatures. And I realized very quickly that it was going to be a very expensive venture to just make shoes for myself. So I decided to explore the possibility of making shoes for others. And as I did my research, I realized very quickly there was no indigenous sneaker brand out of Nigeria at that time in 2015. There also was not anything fantastic within the African continent in terms of an innovative sneaker brand. And so the idea of creating the first innovative and social footwear brand out of Africa was born. I had reached out to a couple of friends, shared this idea with them. One of the friends that really got so excited about it was Moyo. And so Moyo was living in the UK, and whilst I was in the Netherlands, he literally flew over from the UK to meet up with me, and then we had this chat at the red light where we basically had this whole idea, brainstormed it literally over drinks in the red light district in Netherlands. And so Moyo said to me, I think you've got an amazing idea, and you should follow it through. I said, okay, what the heck? I mean, let's just do it. And then, for me, I had also gone through the career of moving from being an employee in the IT industry to starting off a tech business with a couple of friends. And so I had also had some, bitter pills that I had swallowed from taking loans or getting investments from friends and family and then losing that money. And for this idea, I thought it was pretty novel, and I didn't want to take the risk of asking huge sums of money from potential investors or friends and family. And I did some research and I came across crowdfunding. And then I started thinking, what is this all about, this whole crowdfunding thing? But the key thing for me was that it seemed like a very interesting idea to test out this concept through crowdfunding. After all, what did I have to lose? So I got Moyo, myself, a bunch of friends and family to launch a campaign on Kickstarter. And in a period of 40 days, we raised $20,000 from different parts of the world. And I thought it was an amazing, amazing exercise. But if you think in principle about what crowdfunding really is, it is people coming together from different parts of the world, from anywhere in the world to be precise, answering to an open call over the internet to say, I have this amazing idea, I have this project, and I want your support to fund it so that we can bring it to life. And so through that means, getting on Kickstarter gave us the opportunity to fund that idea. But crowdfunding is a little bit more complex than just getting onto a website and getting your funds. You also need to think about the different types of crowdfunding. There are basically 4 types. The first is called donation-based crowdfunding. In this case, it's usually you have a charity project or something that you need a social side to, that you need support from the crowd or the people. And then they basically fund that idea or that project or maybe some medical bill, and they don't really expect you to give them anything back in return. It's just more of a charity. There is the reward-based crowdfunding, in which case you're asking people to fund a project, a product idea, and in exchange for that funding, you're going to reward them back with something. In our case, it was the Keexs sneaker. We had designed a Keexs sneaker collection, which was African-inspired. I had collaborated with a gentleman called Lemmy Garioku. Lemmy was the artist who did a lot of Fela Kuti's album covers. For those who don't know who Fela Kuti is a musical, or was a musical activist, humanitarian from Nigeria, who influenced a lot of pop culture today. What we call Afrobeats today came from Fela Kuti. He started the whole movement, and that is now become a global phenomenon. So we told the Fela story through the shoes, and it was phenomenal for us. We were successful to have been able to raise funding from there. Then there's the other option of equity-based crowdfunding. So literally like going to people to say, I need you to invest in my business, and I'm going to give you shares in the business in exchange for the investment. And the third one is the lending-based or peer-to-peer crowdfunding. You're taking a loan and you're paying it back to the crowd. Now, a lot of crowdfunding is done through what you call platforms. And that is the approved website that enables you to get money from different people across the world. And there are usually 3 core elements to any crowdfunding project. You have the project owner, which is, in this case, it was myself and Moyo. You have the crowd, and those are the people that you need to support your project with the small sums of money and as much impact as possible, not just from the aspect of funding, but getting feedback. So crowdfunding gives you that ability to test out your ideas, get feedback early, show proof of concept, and then it helps to basically get you to be able to move on to the next level of either investment or marketing. In our case, for example, after we had successfully completed the crowdfunding campaign, we started to get news features. CNN picked up our story, Cosmopolitan picked up our story, Forbes picked up our story. We started getting featured, on different platforms, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And so that is one of the beauty of being able to get crowdfunded. But beyond that, let's talk about the idea itself. What exactly are the ideas that we have? A lot of us have big dreams, we have desires, and sometimes we don't know how to go about it. In some cases, it might be you've told a couple of people and they think it's a silly idea, or you don't have the funds to start that idea. I remembered when I started this whole idea of the sneaker company, a lot of people thought it was crazy. Some people thought it was cool, others were like, what the heck are you doing? Why are you shifting careers from one area to the other? But for me, it was beyond just making shoes. What it was important to me was the fact that I wanted to create a brand that created shoes, but also empowered people. The vision from the get-go was to create jobs in Africa and also to give back. So, for example, after the first campaign, we have been able to grow the business. I'm currently in the US, and we are moving again from the first crowdfunding campaign to a next round of funding, which is now an equity-based crowdfunding. We're trying to raise about $1 million. And the goal of that is to move from just a sneaker company to become a lifestyle company that covers not just shoes, but apparel and other accessories, with a core mission, which is triple bottom line. And triple bottom line is talking about people, planet, profit. And so for people, one of the key things that we have envisioned for ourselves is to give back to educating kids. So far, we sponsored about 10 kids to school. And now in 2021, part of our vision is to send 100 kids to school. We've partnered with a charity called Slum to School, and they focus on educating street kids. So every pair of Keexs that is sold helps us to keep a child in school for a week or more. In addition to that, we're also building a global tribe. Keexs is not just out of Africa, but it's become a global tribe. We have people in Japan, we have stores, we have a store in Guadeloupe that is retailing our products. We have products in different parts of the world being bought by people of different sets of origin, right? And so we're building this global tribe, and we're telling their story through the shoes to inspire other people to also begin to adopt some sort of social change within their immediate environment. And as we're also moving into the next phase of our business, we're also looking into health. So products that can enable people to become fitter, healthier, living better lifestyles, walking, exercising, and all of that. And then the second aspect is the planet. So we're now beginning to look into materials that we're producing with that are organic or eco-friendly, or also recycled. So for example, we're talking about using plastics, recycled rubber in the sole of our shoes. We're talking about plastics from the ocean that are being retrieved and now being put into the upper part of the materials. And so we're saying to people, come and join this business. We want to raise $1 million in 2022. And we're not just looking at doing this for ourselves, but creating 1,000 jobs within the next 5 to 10 years in Africa and around the world. And then close to 5,000 indirect jobs, because for every pair of Keexs that is being sold, it enables us to be able to set up a factory that will create jobs. So it's very important that we don't just use crowdfunding as a means of enriching ourselves, but look at crowdfunding as a means of empowering others. Service to many brings about greatness. So it's not just about the money, but the benefits to the people, as well as the underlying value sets around the project, the idea, or the story that you want to tell and ask people to fund your idea with. So it's really about, you can dream big, but start small, take the risk through crowdfunding. If you wish to do that, look at crowdfunding also not just as crowdfunding, but crowdsourcing. You're asking people to fund your business. You're asking people to evangelize your product, your idea, or your service. Because typically when you start a new product or an idea, you have something called the bell curve. The bell curve really is all about innovation. You have those who start early, the early adopters, and then as the product popularity begins to grow, then you have the laggards that come on board. So crowdfunding is a great way to be able to achieve that. And bottom line is, have great ideas, start small, take risks, crowdfund, and the sky is the limit. Thank you very much.